Hello everybody, thank you for watching. This is our 5.4 video on our VSEPR shapes. In this video, we're going to explain how the VSEPR theory is used to predict different molecule shapes. And then we're going to predict our electron geometry and molecular geometry of different molecules while taking consideration the different types of domains. What I want you to do first is pause the video and start by drawing the Lewis structure for water. So the Lewis structure for water looks like this. We have an oxygen with extra electrons at the top and the bottom. However, water actually looks like this because of our VSEPR shapes. So in conclusion, the Lewis structures that we draw on paper, that actually does not accurately show how the shapes are of these individual molecules. That's why we need to talk about VSEPR. What is VSEPR? VSEPR stands for valence shell electron pair repulsion. And the theory is that the VSEPR theory talks about the actual shape of molecule, what it would look like once the Lewis structure has been drawn. So how does VSEPR work? So we know our water molecule looks like that when we draw on paper. However, the electron pairs around the central atom, in this case oxygen, these electrons are actually going to repel each other because they have like charges. The entire pairs are going to pull away from each other, causing the shape of this molecule to change. All right? Because these electrons want to be as far away from each electron pair as possible, the molecule turns out to have a specific shape. And we know this is what the actual shape of water looks like. It's a 3D structure, and it's kind of bent towards the bottom. When considering our electron geometry or our molecular geometry, ultimately a molecule can have two names. Our electron geometry takes into consideration all the bonds around a molecule, and we don't count these lone pairs, which are our extra electrons. We can also have a molecular geometry name, which considers all the lone pairs that are around the molecule and all the bonds that are around that individual molecule. One thing we need to talk about before we further talk about our different VSEPR shapes is domains. So we need to figure out how to find domains around each molecule. So domains are electron pairs around the central atom. And you can have two types of domains around each molecule. The first type is you can have a bonding domain, and those are just our individual bonds. Are they single bonds, double bonds, or triple bonds? The second domain we're going to talk about is our lone pairs, and these are electrons that are not involved in bonding. Usually they're in pairs of two. So we have a couple examples here. We want to figure out what is the total bonding domain for each of these molecules. How many bonds does it have, and how many lone pairs are in this individual molecules. If we take a look at this structure right here, we can see carbon is our central atom, and that's what we're always going to look at, our central atom. It has 4 total bonds attached to it. It doesn't have any lone pairs. Ultimately, our total bonding domain is just going to equal 4. If we take a look at this molecule, we're only looking at our central atom. Again, it has a total of 1, 2, 3 bonds. And if you take a look here, these are called our lone pairs because we have pairs of electrons that are not involved in bonding. So therefore, in this molecule, we only have 1 lone pair. And that makes our total bonding domain 4. When we take a look at this molecule over here, our central atom is carbon. One thing to remember when we're talking about double and triple bonds is single, double, and triple bonds, they only count as 1 bonding domain when we're looking at these bonds. So that means this double bond actually just counts as 1. So when we're counting our number of bonds, our total bonds is just 2 because we have a double bond here and a double bond here. We don't count them as individual bonds. If we take a look at this central atom, it doesn't have any lone pairs. So our total bonding domain for this molecule is just 2. Now we're going to go over all the different domains that are possible. What we're going to talk about is our electron geometry names when looking at these individual domains. The first one here is domain 1. The electron pair geometry name for this molecule that only has 1 domain is called linear. We use a general formula to talk about our individual electron pair geometry. The A in the formula represents our central atom, the X represents how many attached atoms we have, and E ultimately talks about our lone pairs. In this individual linear electron pair geometry, our general formula would be AX, where you have a central atom with only one attached atom, or you can have something that's A2, where you have two central atoms. An example of that would be I2, where you have two iodines and you can't figure out which one is the central atom. Ultimately, we would have a domain 1 when we have only one bonding domain, where you have one attached atom, as you can see in this picture, and no lone pairs. If we have something that has a domain 2, that also is called something linear. We have a central atom over here that is attached to two other atoms. Therefore, our general formula looks like this, AX2. In this particular molecule, we have two bonding domains because we only have two bonds and no lone pairs. If we have a domain of 3, that name is called trigonal planar, and the formula looks like this. And in this image, we have a central atom and 3 attached atoms and no lone pairs, making a total domain of 3. If we have a total domain of 4, that electron pair geometry name is tetrahedral, where we have a formula that looks like this. We have a central atom with 4 other attached atoms. Therefore, we have a total bonding domain of 4. If we have a domain of 5, that electron pair geometry name is trigonal bipyramidal. We have a central atom with 5 other attached names. The general formula looks like this, and then ultimately there isn't any lone pairs. We're just talking about how many attached atoms we have, and that would ultimately equal 5. Lastly, we have a domain of 6, and that electron pair geometry name is octahedral. And in that case, our formula looks like this, AX6. And that means we have a total bonding domain of 6. If you take a look at this image, we have a central atom and we have 6 other attached atoms. That concludes our video for our VSEPR shapes. In this video, we talked about the VSEPR theory and how it's used to predict our molecular shapes, and we talked about our electron geometry and the different names while taking consideration our different domains. Thank you for watching.